Welcome to I Am Now podcast. Thank you for joining us. My co host and I, Stephanie Wins, are excited that you guys have decided to join us on this journey. I'll let her introduce herself and we'll give you guys an overview of what we plan to bring you through this content.
Thank you, Arthur. Hi, I'm Stephanie Wins, and like you said, we're glad to be here with you. We're carrying over pretty much from an audio taping where we you could find us on Apple or Spotify briefly. We are reinventing ourselves pretty much, really. Can we
Yes,
say
yes,
that?
upgrading, upgrading.
Upgrading, wonderful. So we're now on video as well as audio. So you'll be able to catch us in both areas. I'm going to give it back to you and let you lead in with what you like to bring, in our podcast.
Thank you. So, first of all, my name is Arthur Grant. I don't know if I said that from the very beginning. But when Stephanie and I first talked about this concept, we developed the name I Am Now, centered around being present. The overall approach to what we want to bring to you guys is self improvement. We want to encourage people to invest in themselves, in improving themselves and the quality of their living from all aspects of life. And that may include some aspects that they normally don't consider in their everyday movement. Um, Energy is one of the big focus that I have brought into my life that I wasn't aware of at first. There's certain people that I like to listen to: Vishen Lakhani, Bob Proctor, Tony Robbins. These guys are all wealth abundant teachers, and that is one of the foundations of their theories and their ideologies. So I talked to Stephanie, and when we talk about what we want to leave to people, knowing that we don't live forever, the one thing that I wanted to focus on bringing and contributing to this world is leaving someone 200, 300, 400 years from now some tools and some resources to be able to listen to assist them in times of need, especially in times of trying to expand and grow, trying to progress, trying to do bigger and better things in their lives. And this is more than just material. Material is a result of what we need to do moving forward. It centers around changing the way we think and the way we look at ourselves and our lives. So, with that, I'll pass it over to you, Stephanie, and let you comment
Well,
from that
thank
point.
you. Thank you, Arthur. I will be focusing on positivity. I That's something that I need to work on personally. Um, Arthur and I talk frequently. We have for years, and we can go into extensive
Mhm.
conversations. But overall, I want to let you know through those conversations that we've had, it's led me to want to work on growth and promote growth with others to be positive. We have this. I was talking to someone the other day. Was it you? I think it was you.
Probably so.
And and I was talking about when we're children, we're pretty much positive all the time. We think that we can, aim for the stars
Mhm.
in most cases. It just depends on your background. But in most cases, children, unless you teach them something differently, they're thinking that, they're invincible,
Mhm.
or they're going to be able to make this dollhouse. I'm going to be able to make this, woodbox car or what have you. And but when you grow and you experience, other people, situations, things can happen, and you can move away from just always thinking, hey, I'm going to aim for this and it's going to turn out just like I want it to, just the positive aspect of something. So I want to encourage those that look or listen to our podcast to work with me. Or we work together
Mhm.
to think of y- the positive aspects of things. And I don't want to just keep using that word, but I just want us to focus in on, this is going to happen, I'm
Mhm.
going to achieve that,
Mhm.
and I'll just leave it there.
Yeah. So, I
Hmm.
mean, to piggyback off of what you're saying with maintaining a positive frequency, we as this podcast progresses and move forward, we want to center our trajectory, excuse
Hmm.
me, on positive thinking and high frequency and the science of what frequencies and vibrations bring to our lives. That is one of the key foundations of I Am Now. The thing that I've learned is that now is the only time that exists. Now is the only time that is relative to the concept of time. When you talk about the past and you talk about the present and you talk about the future does not exist. It is something that we think about and we keep our minds toiling over a lot of times. And a lot of times it creates anxiety when a lot of people are sitting and they're focusing on, I have to pay this bill 2 weeks from now. They lock themselves in a physical vibrating frequency of being anxious and worried about paying that bill in the future. When you think about something that happened to you in the past a lot of times can trigger depressive thoughts because when someone has been hurt or whatever the situation is, presented itself, we shift our frequencies into that particular episode, which changes our vibration. And you're living in the past, and the only thing that can keep us trapped in those particular places, the future and the past, is our mind. They do not exist. The only place they exist is in our actual brain. Inside of my skull is the only place where the past and the future exists. The only thing we have is now. And if you think about it, when you're thinking about paying that bill 2 weeks from now, when it happens on that day, 2 weeks from now, the actual time is going to be now in the future. When that thing that happened to you in the past that hurt you so much, when it happened, it was now. So in relative terms, when we talk about time, the only time that really exists is now.
So something's coming to mind. So I'm thinking that to basically recap, you were talking about energy. So, just being conscientious, being purposefully conscientious of what we're thinking in the moment. But I'm wondering, how do you do that? I mean, are we supposed to constantly be erasing thoughts?
Yes, it is called, I call it shadow work. And the reason I call it shadow work is because this is work that is done when no one is watching you. It's in the shadows when you're not, how some people go to the gym and they like to work out and show out in front of others. And, I see a lot of the ladies, they actually put makeup on to go to the gym. I really don't understand that concept when you're about to sweat it off. But
Right,
this is
right,
how,
right.
you're coming to work out and perform for other people watching you. There are times when you're going to have to do exactly what you just said. Like, for example, me, I plan to bring transparency to this podcast. I literally practice on capturing every thought that does not produce something positive. And when it does come to me, or if something negative comes to me, I transmute. Transmute meaning to change the charge of that experience into something positive. You constantly have to be mindful on catching your thoughts and shifting your emotions. And so this is how you stay now, because it's so easy to get caught up in thinking about something that is happening in the future. We're constantly thinking about the next thing we're going to do. The future and the past can be macro and micro. Macro meaning in a large sense, meaning future could be in a macro sense a year from now. But actually, in a micro term, the future is only 10 seconds from now.
Well, let me ask you this. So, when you've put that into practice, when you're capturing your thoughts that might be negative and you're redirecting them,
Correct.
on a percentage, let's just say you're working with a 100% scale, your outcomes have been 80% positive, 60% positive as you're growing and you're doing this and you're noticing yourself capturing those thoughts and redirecting them. Can you say that, you've noticed that the outcome has really been significant, or it's just something that you're just still working on? It's just a work in progress. So let's just say you have goals that you want to achieve, and you've had about 5 goals, and you've had to, at some point, convince yourself, hey, or catch yourself, look, this is all going to turn out well. I'm going to accomplish this goal. Out of the 5, with your thinking positively, because I just want people to tangibly, get an idea.
That's a
So
great
have
point.
you been able to accomplish, honestly, have you been able to accomplish 5 of those, 3 of those goals, 4 of those goals? What would the percentage be? Excuse me.
Um, well, I don't.
Even if it's just not, they don't even have to be large in scale. They
So,
could be small.
right. So let me say this. So when I measure the success of what I'm
Mhm.
trying to do,
Yes.
the first thing I want to say is that we don't really have the ability to erase our experiences. So to say that you're going to completely erase something that you have experienced, whether it's been good or bad, normally we would love to erase our memory from bad experiences. That's not happening. Once we experience something, it's in our mind. And a lot of times we're not aware that these things will revisit our mind. The success of it, to answer your question, is what do you do when that thought comes? To say that the thought is not going to come, that's not a reality. Thoughts are going to come back to you. The success of it is does it trigger the emotion? So to answer your question, to say that, 4 out of 5 times I'm able to do it, I'm not really tracking it like that. What I'm tracking is that I'm able to transmute the energy into positive and control my emotion. That's all. The success of what you're trying to do, capture those thoughts, is you're trying to control your emotion. A lot of not a lot, our vibrational frequency depends on what our emotions are, not our thoughts, not our physical actions. Our frequency depends on where your emotions are. Your emotions draw in to you. You've heard the saying, what you get out, you get back. That saying attaches to actual charges. What you give out is what you give out from your mind and the mental charge, and what you get back is is from what your emotion and your heart brings back to you. So to answer your question, the way
Yes.
I measure my success is when those thoughts come to my mind, how it triggers me emotionally and what I'm able to do with it emotionally is how I measure my success. It didn't bother. If I think about that bad thing that happened, or if it's someone offended me or did something to me, if it's from someone, when I think of it, if I'm able to forgive that person, if I'm able to stay calm, if I'm able to, think in an optimistic mindset or consider what maybe that person was going through something. Those kind of thoughts from that particular situation that I replay in my mind is letting me know that I'm being successful.
Okay. And not necessarily that the person turned around and it ended up being positive relation between you two.
Correct.
Okay.
Because
Okay, because I'm asking for like the end result. So
correct.
for instance, you were thinking, okay, um, I had an argument with Betty. We're just
Okay.
making up a name,
Okay.
and Betty seems to be very sour. She doesn't want to communicate. But what I'm doing is constantly putting out positive energy to Betty,
Mhm.
every time we interact.
Mhm.
Is that giving me positive energy back from Betty? And I understand that might be a no because we can only control ourselves. But I just wanted to know, using that as an example, even if it's something that you're like, continuing positive thoughts and putting out positive energy with gaining a certification or something like that,
Mhm.
to keep yourself going, to keep yourself thriving to achieve what you want, do you find that you do get positive results? In most cases.
Yes.
Okay.
And to answer your question, is Betty,
Mm-hmm.
am I getting positive energy back from Betty? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Because like you said, something that's so important, Stephanie,
Mm-hmm.
is that you are responsible for you.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that happens to us comes from us. The 90% of action in this world is life is going to happen to you.
Mm-hmm.
10% of it is based on how you respond. And that's where the quality of your living dwells, in that 10%. There's things that we have no control over. When you decide and realize and conclude, I don't have control over everything. The only thing I have control over is me.
And you could be proud of how you reacted.
Correct.
And the energy that you put out. You could
Correct.
be that could be the goal. That could be the end result.
Every
Even if
time,
Betty
though.
never turned around.
But
You
every
know?
time. So
Mm-hmm.
the goal is to do it every time.
Mm-hmm.
When you start to do this and transition yourself to Now I did it the first time, but I let Betty, get to me,
Mm-hmm.
and I dipped, and
Mm-hmm.
she frustrated me. She
I'm just
pissed me
tired of
off.
Betty.
Oh
Uh-huh.
yeah, I'm tired of
Mm-hmm.
ass,
Mm-hmm.
and then she pissed me
Mm-hmm.
off,
Mm-hmm.
and so but then the universe will bring it back to you again.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like the gym. It's
Mm-hmm.
shadow work. It's a workout.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be given constant
That's a
situations.
good term.
It's
Mm-hmm.
not going to stop coming. That
Mm-hmm.
person's you're going to leave Betty
Mm-hmm.
and then go get in traffic. Somebody's going to cut you off.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to go home. There's going to be shoes
Mm-hmm.
left.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have
Mm-hmm.
constant practices to help control your reaction.
Mm-hmm. So what are you feeding your body, your mind, your cells, which,
Thank you. This
mhm,
comes back to the physical part of
mhm,
your health, the physical part of this approach. And that's another thing I want to say too. That's a goal of what I want to bring.
mhm,
I've talked to you several times, and I talked to a lot of my friends and people that I love,
mhm,
and people that are very open to what I'm saying. And
mhm,
I can appreciate that. But one thing I'm seeing is a disconnect between the scientific side of what I'm presenting in theory and the ability of some of the people to say, like, yo, Arthur, I have no clue what you're talking about. And so what I want to do through this medium and through this podcast is one of my biggest goals. Like I said, I mentioned some of the Vishen Lukhani. I read this book, Code to the Extraordinary Mind. He's a wonderful teacher of a lot of these things that I'm saying. I want to put it into layman's terms. I think a lot of what we deal with people not willing to put their toes 10 foot, 10, like they
mhm,
said, 10 toes in and really buckle down and make these changes. It's because they don't understand what they're doing. They don't understand how, and they don't understand what they're doing. You hear people talking about manifesting. They don't know what that is.
mhm,
And so, once you start to unlock some of the scientific side, some of this stuff that people are scared to really open their minds to, there's fear in the unknown. And, when I start talking about physics and quantum fields, and, when I was in college, I dodged every subject that started with pH.
mhm,
And like, that don't make sense to me.
mhm,
Who came up with P and H to make the F sound? Like, you know what I'm saying? So
mhm,
I dodged all that stuff.
mhm, mhm,
But this is pure study. This is not something that we are making up. There is a field that exists that we do not see. Just like you brought up, and I said it was a great point. The cells, the molecules. Our body is made up of cells and molecules, even though we can't see them with our naked eye, but we know that it's there. It's the same thing with the quantum field. There are particles. Like if you see lightning strike down from the sky, when you see it dancing and hitting certain points, it's hitting certain particles. It's not just falling randomly. It's bouncing off of certain particles in the atmosphere,
mhm,
electricity.
mhm.
So electricity is there, even though we can't see it.
Right.
Like right now, while we're recording this podcast, if we were to take a thermal shot of all the signals that are being sent in and out of this room in the ether, from the cell phones, from
Mhm.
security systems, we live in a coded environment, even though I can't see it. So what I want to do is open people's minds to this, to show how to apply this in their evolving,
Mhm.
in their ascension,
Mhm.
and learning more about their bodies and learning more about their health and their mental health and their
Mhm.
consciousness. Because in that, there's true discovery of a better quality of living. It's not
Mhm.
some spooky, like, oh, I can't see it. What are you talking about? Some different realms, and get on
Yeah.
out of here.
Yeah.
So my goal is to bring this and bring it down, bring this to the audience and bring it into layman's terms.
Mhm. I'm going to use this second to just put a thumb tag
Print.
there.
Mhm.
Yeah, thumbprint, thumbtack, whatever we want to call it, because I want us to have the discussion about what we just talked about and spirituality, religion,
Mhm.
because there at some point, it doesn't have to be here,
Yes.
but at some point, but I just want to put that on record because I have some thoughts about that. But yes, I think that's, we have to be conscientious of what we're feeding our bodies.
Mhm.
Our bodies are reacting
Mhm.
to how we're directing it
Mhm.
to,
Correct.
to
Yes. Yeah. The frequency.
yeah.
It's been studied, and the frequencies that we operate on determines the law of vibration. The law of vibration says that everything must move.
Mhm.
Like right now, we are constantly moving. There are things constantly moving. This earth is constantly turning.
Mhm.
So the law of vibration and our frequencies is what our bodies are on right now.
Mhm.
Our bodies are vibrating right now. Our molecules and our cells are vibrating. The only thing that's holding our molecules together is a magnetic field to create our bodies,
Mhm.
to create the biological forms of our skin, um, and other objects.
Mhm.
So that part of the statement that you just made, saying that, understanding our bodies and our health, that is actual frequency.
Mhm.
The highest frequency that we can live on is gratitude,
Mhm.
love, and
Mhm.
gratitude,
Mhm.
appreciative. That
Mhm.
is a high frequency. When we start doing anger, depression, we drop ourselves into a low vibration and a low frequency.
And do you think that it's likely that that happens because we don't have a lot of people to share this frame of work of
Absolutely.
thinking with?
Yes,
You know, so if
yes.
you're not practice, or and you could be practicing it,
Hmm.
but you're just one
Correct.
amongst the other 80 people that I'm around all the time.
Correct.
So you're saying it, and I don't feel that I have enough proof that it works.
Correct. That's beautifully said. Like, that's a wall
Mhm.
for a lot of people.
Mhm.
Um, because unfortunately we're conditioned to just go by what we were taught.
Mhm.
I'm only doing it this way because that's the way I've always done it. That is one term and one statement that will kill you every single
Mhm.
time.
And when I get around these people and I start talking this, people are gonna
I've
my
all
folks gonna start looking at me crazy. Like, "What
they
you
go,
talking about?"
no, they think you're so weird when you start talking
Mhm.
about all these things.
Mhm.
But I think that
And
we
what
can.
yeah, and what I'm saying is, although I just said that, I don't think that we should think that way. You know, I don't think if we have to move independently for what's going to be healthy for ourselves, I mean,
Mhm.
not pull away from,
No, no, you're
our
pulling
people,
away is
but
it.
be an example though too
True,
sometimes. You know what I'm
true.
saying?
But be that
Uh-huh.
example, but at
Mhm.
the same time, you have to be that example from a distance.
Mm.
Because what'll end up happening is so another term is called our vortex field. So
Mhm.
this is a scientific term. Have you ever seen that image of the man has his arms and they
Mhm,
show
mhm, mhm. He's standing in
he's
the
standing
like,
so we literally have a vortex field around us.
Mhm,
That molecule, our bodies is electricity.
mhm,
We have a charge. We
mhm,
are light. Just have you ever seen them put a thermal camera on somebody? You can see the heat. That's
mhm,
energy.
mhm,
That's creating a field.
mhm,
Like, for example, when somebody
mhm,
you lay close to your loved one and say that's
mhm,
body heat.
mhm.
That's energy that's coming off of them.
Yeah.
If you were to take a thermal picture of that,
Mhm.
you can see a human being and the little heat field
Right,
around them.
right, right,
So
right.
what I'm saying is that if you continue to place yourself in your vortex and you allow people to come into your vortex with this low frequency vibration, telling you like, oh, that's crazy. Oh, that doesn't make sense. Then you're subjecting yourself to you're making it harder for your growth. This
Mhm,
shadow work that I'm talking about, these things that you believe in, you make
mhm.
it harder. So you do have to make certain decisions. When people say that you have to change your circles,
It's pretty much like your diet.
uh-huh,
If you're gonna change yourself physically.
you have to
Mhm,
change your
mhm,
circles too. Should be
mhm,
a part of your
mhm,
diet.
mhm,
Um, like I say, love them from a distance. I have plenty of people that I love from a distance now.
mhm,
I
mhm.
can't continually come and repeat something to you over and over and over again, and you're refusing to even open your mind to it because it's something that's going over your head. Or
Mhm.
I'm sounding crazy. Or I sound
Mhm.
weird. And
Mhm.
then I'm
Or you're
getting
just not even open to it. It's not that you
exactly
even have to subscribe to it. You're just not open to
open
it. You
to it.
don't accept me with it.
Exactly.
And it's not like I'm hurting the earth.
I know.
I'm trying to do better
Yes.
myself, but you're
Yes.
just not open to me trying to do better in this path, on
Yes.
this path that I'm trying to take.
Yes,
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
is well said. And
Mhm.
then you have to make the mature decision to love yourself and say,
Mhm.
you know what, I can't, because
Mhm.
unfortunately, life is not infinite.
No.
These bodies have a time limit. They have an
Mhm. Mhm.
expiration date.
Mhm.
And part of our goal, as you and I have talked
Yes.
several times, is to help people to capture every single moment that they're alive and to make it quality. I got that from Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy Johnson was the ex-Dallas Cowboys coach. He developed a theory called QTL, quality time lived.
Mhm.
And he says that when you become really good at making sure every second you spend is quality time, you're capturing every thought. You're practicing, you're putting in work. And it doesn't mean you have to go on some fancy vacation to have a quality time. The
Mhm.
time I spend with you is
Mhm.
quality time.
Mhm.
I made the conscious decision that today I want to have quality time lived. I'm gonna put my vortex around positive energy and open mind.
Mhm.
So therefore, and love
Mhm.
and a high vibrational frequency. So therefore, I'm going to put myself around Stephanie Wins.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so you see how I made that decision?
Mhm.
That is what we need to do every single
Okay.
day with the limited time that we have. If you woke up and you took those breaths and heard
Mhm.
those birds
Mhm.
chirping, you need to be grateful.
Mhm.
I talk about Tori Bowie,
Mhm.
R.I.P. Tori Bowie,
Mhm.
Olympic
That's
track
mhm.
runner.
Mhm.
A couple of months ago, they found her dead in her house at 32 years old.
Mhm.
Beautiful sister.
Mhm.
And you know, she did not fit the norms to die. She wasn't a heavy drinker. She was an extreme specimen of an athlete, top 10%, being an Olympic gold medalist.
Mhm.
She wasn't at the club. She wasn't, putting herself in all these precarious situations and environments where straight bullets are flying. She was at her home and did not wake up. And so she was pregnant. She
Mhm.
found out at the end of the autopsy, said that she was pregnant. So when I hear 32 years old and just, died in her sleep, it just makes me really thankful every day that I get up. And this
Mhm.
time now, doing this recording, this session, spending
Mhm.
time with our audience,
Mhm.
I am so grateful to be alive. I am
Mhm.
so grateful to have air in my lungs right now.
Mhm.
There are so many people every single day who do not get this gift to wake
Mhm.
up and experience this world. So I've heard that, you live two lives. The first life is you live invincible. As you say, as a young child,
Mhm.
children are invincible. They jump
Mhm.
off of houses. I know I was doing
Mhm.
all kind of crazy shit,
Mhm.
jumping off houses
Mhm.
and jumping into
Mhm. And
anything.
had no fear about it.
No fear. You
Mhm.
had that invincible life, even in
Mhm.
all the way into my 20s.
Mhm.
But the second life starts when you realize you don't have forever.
Yeah.
And now what do you want to do with that time?
Mhm.
And so this is why I want to come and offer a contribution when I'm dead and gone. Hopefully some soul can tap into this 200 years, 300 years from now, this signal, this podcast, and say, you know what, we listen to I Am Now.
Mhm.
I'm learning to stay now. Listen to Arthur Grant and Stephanie Wins. I learned to
Mhm.
stay now. I
Mhm.
learned to tap into science to find out more about the scientific side of my health, the energy side of my health,
Mhm.
how to improve my overall quality of living.
Right. And to conscientiously focus in on it all the time.
All the time. That's what it
Mhm.
takes, Stephanie.
Mhm.
When
Mhm.
you do it all the time, you'll be
Mhm.
surprised at the results you see.
And see, that's what I was kind of alluding to earlier. You like with the goals, and you like if you see that you're doing it all the time, do you find that positive results, the end result is positive? Do you find that the end result is usually positive?
Yes, and I do.
Mhm.
I cannot
Mhm.
lie. And like I said, it looks different for different people.
Mhm.
The end result for me in positive is I'm at peace. I'm
Mhm.
happy.
Mhm.
I'm bending reality because I have goals and I'm
Mhm.
happy in my now. I am
Mhm.
now. I am staying present. And I
Mhm.
don't even use the word present moment because when
Mhm.
you attach the word moment to it, moments are fleeting.
Mhm.
That moment is gone. You
Mhm.
have to stay present now all the time. Now is
Mhm.
moving now.
Mhm.
Like I said, time is macro and micro.
Mhm.
5 seconds ago was the past.
Yes.
Just like 5 years ago was the past.
Mhm.
So when you are that aware and you're broadening your conscious to be that aware of it all the time, to practice it and do that shadow work, it
Mhm.
becomes easier. In your
Mhm.
busy lives, when you're hustling and bustling at work
Mhm.
and you're being tested, then you got to run and you have to jump in traffic and get the kids and get something to eat, and
Mhm.
you have all of this life goes
So
on.
what should you be thinking when that's going on? You're rushing in traffic. You need to get the kids. You have a timeline that you actually have to meet. So
Yes.
tangibly, in our what should somebody be thinking? Or
Um,
what would you think in a situation like that where you're getting annoyed by traffic? You see that it's thick, it's not moving, but you need to get to the daycare, but at 6 o'clock, it's down the street, and it's like 5:50. You really only have 5 minutes to get there. So what do you? Because we want people to
Yes.
know how to implement the exercise. And I'm listening too.